So what would you say along the whole area that you guys service? What are the like big, well-known or really nice resorts?
Yeah. Well, you have. I mean, so Ocean City have this. You do have the Flanders there. Um, I got to be honest with you. I don't really know too much about the Avalon Stone Harbor, so I would probably say like the Grand down in the Crest.
Yep.
I'm sure Joe probably already mentioned that one. Um, those are really the ones that
Okay.
I know of because it's more. It is more about the individual owned units in the area versus those type of complexes. Except for the new one that's going to be built in Ocean City, whether they like it or not.
Yep. So
The Icona.
comparing and not trying to like say one is better than the other or do anything like that, but like comparing the Flanders and the Grand because those are the two you're most familiar with. What are like the differences between those two? And then we'll sort of go from there.
Well, you have one unit that was built in 1923. So, I mean, the structure itself is just completely different. There's single bedroom, single bedrooms. There's a couple of penthouses in there. There's some two bedroom units, but in the presidential suite area that are more modern. But the facilities themselves, it's an older building. Whereas the Grand, I mean, they're luxurious units that are individually owned like the Flanders are, but they're luxurious. It's almost kind of a take on of almost like a New York style high rise, I think, of luxury in that, in my opinion, which attracts that type of buyer that's looking for that. I mean, it has everything and anything in it that you could ask for. It has saunas, massage, areas, gymnasiums, pool, and all of that. So really, when you show up there, you're in a resort, but it's just a much larger facility and a much larger square footage in the units themselves.
And this new one that they're going to build in Ocean City over the Wonderland,
Yeah.
or where the former Wonderland. What it sounds like you know a little bit about the plans surrounding that.
No, there's no plans outlaid yet. It's only just the facade of what it would look like.
Okay.
Yeah, they haven't really outlaid what the units would have or the size of the units. How many. It's not narrowed down yet because nothing's passed.
So
But
what
something will get
what
passed.
would you hope to see as like someone who lives here and also as a realtor? What kind of things do you think would make an awesome?
Well, I think if you're going to go in that direction, so as a real estate agent, I mean, we're not going to get anything out of that from the standpoint of what's going to be built there. However, what can happen is that you're going to bring new people in to the area. They might be do 1 night stays, 2 night stays, whatever it is, maybe more short term, more year round opportunity for that type of stuff. And to me, it brings potentially new owners to the area that you may not otherwise have. And I think that's important. I think it can also help people rent here that maybe otherwise can't if they don't need a 3-bedroom, 2-bath condo unit, and they're not going to spend $4,000 to $6,000 in a week. So they might want something that maybe has a little bit more luxury to it. So almost kind of like if you're like the Margaritavilles, like when you show up there, they have the restaurants and they have the shops and they have the coffee shops and all of that within those. That's nice because it really works for almost every age group. But I think this could be the same way. It just really, and what I think is going to be nice is they're going to try to keep a little bit of the history from Wonderland as a part of it, from what they're claiming, from the Ferris wheel and the carousel, and perhaps maybe a couple other things. But look, the other option is they could just put in townhouses, which would real estate wise would be great for us. You get a new buyer, you get someone's going to sell it, someone's going to buy it. And there's resale there. These units aren't going to be resaleable units. They're not going to be sold that way.
Yeah.
So what we're hoping for on the real estate side is, and for me, is just that you might have potentially new owners coming in that stay there, fall in love with the building, fall in love with the area, and go in that direction that maybe otherwise wouldn't have.
Okay. And what kind of impact does something like this have on Ocean City real estate? Like if they build some big building like the Grand?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, I think that there's a lot of concern over infrastructure and what have you. I don't think it's really going to impact the neighborhoods around it negatively. They might feel that it is. It's going to impact their views. They don't have views anyways to really speak of. So I don't know how much it's really going to impact views. I don't know how much it's going to really impact the neighborhood, except for the standpoint of, yes, there's going to be influx of traffic. There's an influx of people. So that infrastructure in that area there is probably going to get taxed. So, and what I mean by tax, I don't mean by tax dollars. It's just going to be, have a lot of pressure on it to be able to handle that. I mean, you've got food trucks, you know, all that, delivery trucks. So those are valid concerns for the neighborhood. At the same time, I think if that's part of the planning process, right, that's way beyond my scope, they might have to come up with something that has to be dealt with that facility in order to be able to handle that. And that might be part of the planning process. But that's up to the planning boards and everything else.
Like the city planners.
Yeah, the city planners.
Do you think so? If it brings in, I guess it would depend on how the city planners approach it, but it's like if it brought in a lot more stress on the infrastructure, in theory that could make properties immediately around it less desirable. On the other hand, if the city improved a lot of things to accommodate it, that would make those properties more desirable.
Yeah, and I think, and that's a valid concern that the homeowners probably around the property are going to have, that it's like it could negatively impact their value and impact their enjoyment of their property, whether they're here year round or not. It's that when they come down, or if they're going to rent out to people, if that's what their property's for, is it negatively impacting their rental potential because of what's there? So sure, those are all valid concerns. So again, that comes back to, that's where conversation comes in. One, the zoning has to be changed to allow the building anyways, first and foremost, because it's not zoned for what they want to put there. So those concerns need to be raised at the time that this is all being discussed. And that's where those concerns can be addressed. Maybe it's something somebody hasn't thought about, that then when you bring light to it, then it's like, oh geez, we weren't aware of that. And now all of a sudden it can get worked into the planning.
Yeah.
So they'll do the best that they can for everybody. And at the end of the day, it's like every negotiation. Not everybody wins, but not everybody loses. And I think that's going to be the key here for everybody.